Hello.
Howdy, howdy. Okay, we might as well go ahead and get started. Get the kind of standard what's going on with the viewer updates done, and then can move on to any questions that people want to talk about in more detail. Biggest recent change is that we have promoted the viewer called Delta FPS. This is a collection of bug fixes and performance improvements, and we are very excited to get it out. This is uh, one step in our efforts to gain back some problems that we encountered with the initial PBR release, or actually the second PBR release. So first piece of that was the Atlasaurus release that went out a couple of weeks ago. Second step is Delta FPS. There will be a third viewer release coming called Extra FPS, which will have even more performance improvements in it. Probably the next release, and there'll be an RC for that coming pretty soon. It's not out quite yet. Beyond that, there will probably next be a release that captures all the work that's been sitting in the Mate B branch for quite a while. That one needs to get out. I think that'll include some things people will like. One area that has is some contributions that we got related to getting getting the viewer to build in Linux. So that's one piece of the puzzle for being able to actually distribute Linux builds with our viewer, which we'll be planning to do. Oh, cool. We have an extra FPS link there from Brad. Let's see other things. WebRTC, as you know, we're going to be switching over to a new voice system that will supersede the older Vivox stuff. So that will be coming out at a date to be determined. We have the viewer support for that is out now. Atlasaurus had WebRTC. Delta FPS has WebRTC. Future releases will have it as well. So it's really just dependent on which region you're in, whether you get the old voice or the new voice. And so far, we just have the WebRTC voice in a few kind of internal and test regions, but that will be expanding and going grid wide, hopefully fairly soon. So Voice Echo Island. Is Roxy here? My understanding is that there is a Voice Echo Island, but I don't have the details about it. I don't know if anybody else does.
Sort of. There will be echo objects in a similarly named region. So it'll serve the same function, just different service. WebRTC, not Vivox.
Kyle, do you know if that's up now, or is that still pending?
That will be pending until the official release of WebRTC goes out further. Yep.
Okay, so coming soon.
Certainly, there's 4 of those right now. They are aptly named WebRTC 1, 2, 3, and 4.
All right. Let's see. I think those are the big announcements about pending viewers. And as you can see, we're trying to get these things out fairly quickly. We are following a little bit different process now. Instead of keeping separate branches live for a long time, we are having most work go into a single development branch, and then just pulling off a kind of an RC branch from that when we're getting ready to release something. So that's going to mean that the work tends to get mixed up more into different work tends to get mixed up more into a single release, and it should also mean that fixes and changes get out sooner. They don't wind up kind of waiting to escape because they're in a release that's pending. But still working on the process, and maybe a few additional refinements coming. Keep an eye out on it all. And other than that, I think we are open for questions. Let's see. Oh, there was a question from YouTube. When does SL Mobile come out? I don't have information about the mobile release schedule. Kyle, do you have any info on that?
I unfortunately do not.
Yeah, this group is more about the desktop viewer. We don't necessarily get all the scoop on mobile stuff. All right. I don't. Dave, do you want to talk any more detail about specifically what's going on in the various graphics focused releases at this point?
Sure, I can talk about some of the engine improvements that we've been making to improve frame rate and memory footprint. So Delta FPS, which just went out, has a major change to the texture streaming system that will use the GPU to downres textures, so you should see a lot less blurring of textures in that viewer. So when a texture goes to downres, what it used to do is it would downres it to a very low resolution and then use the CPU to load it back from the disk. Now it uses the GPU to just make a lower resolution copy with what it already has on the GPU and then delete the high res version. So it's one, uses a lot less CPU and it's a lot faster. Two, it doesn't ever show you the blurry version. So 2K textures, those have been out for a while.
One change that's still pending is support for 2K textures in bakes. Like for bakes on mesh. That is being worked on, but it's not out yet.
Right. I'm not sure where it is in the release pipe, but the local preview for Bake has also been upped to 2K. So what you see should be what you get between local preview and the final Bake. And in the next release, extra FPS, something that'd be interested in content creators is we're also related to texture streaming. We're getting the right resolution for your attachments. So if you've got a rigged attachment now, the client doesn't really have a good answer for how big that attachment is. So it just takes a guess that it's as big as your entire avatar and uses that to determine what resolution texture should load. So all of your attachments essentially get the same resolution, but for most of your attachments, they're not your whole body. They're a lot smaller than your whole body, so that's wasteful. So, and extra FPS, there'll be a change to get the right answer for that. So your jewelry that has a 2K texture on it won't actually download that 2K until you zoom in on it very, very closely. And that's helped performance a lot, particularly in crowds. So definitely do check out extra FPS the link that Brad posted. Try it out. Let us know what you think. The
Is that logic
statistics.
being used for mesh LODs as well?
It's not being used for LODs. No changes to mesh LODs.
Okay, just for texture LODs.
What do you mean by nearest neighbor texture filtering? Oh, you mean like not linear filtering, but like pixel art filtering? Okay, that will be supported with GLTF, but we don't really have any plans to add support for that to legacy materials yet. Um, yes, water. So the Geens was talking about adding support for water, high quality water reflections again by turning the water plant into a mirror, but I'm not sure what priority that has. SSR has its own bunch of problems, but yes, water reflection quality is definitely on the list of things to improve, but it's not on the schedule. Something that we know about, but right now we're prioritizing performance and visual quality of not water. So things like better anti-aliasing. So I can't remember if Delta FPS has it or if it's the one after that. Let me check my preferences. Okay, so not Delta FPS, but extra FPS should have support for SMAA, so that's better anti-aliasing. And it won't be in extra FPS, but in the release after extra FPS, I don't know what we're gonna call it, faster pussycat. That should have some more controls for exposure and tone mapping. Because we've gotten a lot of feedback that some people don't like the exposure, some people think that things are very dark. So we'll have some more controls for you to set that. What else is going on? And see, I touched on anti-aliasing, tone mapping, alpha gamma fixes are still in development. That's a fix to let you control how linear alpha blending affects your legacy content to try to help get that back to being the level of opacity that it was before we introduced PBR. That's not in this release, and it's not in extra FPS. It should be in the release after extra FPS. See, Nix asks, will GLTF uploads on meshes address issues of random link set ordering? When uploading a multi-object EA, it turns into a link set, but the objects will come in a random order. Yeah, so what should happen with GLTF is that you'll get the same hierarchy that you had set up in Blender or whatever your external tool is. If you look at the Blender 4.3 docs on GLTF, that's a goal is see. 3. Let me find a link to it. Why is that Japanese? For some reason, Blender thinks I'm Japanese. Anyway, if you look for the Blender 4.3 manual on GLTF 2.0, that's the functionality that we're targeting for interop between Blender and Second Life. We probably won't hit all of it. Like some of the material extensions, like clear coat and sheen and anisotropy, those probably won't work with the first release. Transmission and IOR should. And I particularly like what they have to say about UDIM, which is sure you can use it in Blender and it'll export to GLTF in a way that makes us not have to support UDIM in Second Life. Question from YouTube. I've noticed that my fellow Mac users and I seem to get far lower FPS with each release than our PC friends. Yes. Did a performance pass on Intel and Apple Silicon just this past week. So those results are in the extra FPS viewer. Please try that one and let us know if it solves your problem. Yes. So N-World editing creation tools will get an update with GLTF support, and as much as we'll have tools to let you edit GLTF scenes, but you know, with that comes hierarchy editing, like a scene explorer. And with that comes, with the scene explorer comes like scene management tools that let you more directly manipulate how things are instanced, that kind of thing. We've also been talking about a simplified editor for decorating houses, etc. So I'd be interested to know what kind of tools people would like to see in world versus external.
It would be nice if the texture repeats worked for the PBR materials. That would be good for helping people align the textures on the houses.
You mean like planar?
Well, just all of it. There used to be like a representational grid, which there is in the Blink font interface, but it doesn't seem to follow through it.
Oh, the highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fixed in this latest release. I definitely saw a lot of code fly by that was aiming to address that. So that should be fixed.
Runetai, Dave P, sorry, one of the really good ideas I think would be to add the ability to use the right click attach to point in editing tools so that you can just box select everything you've got on the ground and just attachment point it then, instead of everything still being attached to right hand. If you're not going to do it in the uploader, give us the opportunity to do it on the ground, because once it's in people's inventories, people just forget. But if it's part of their editing when they're adding scripts and checking perms, if one of the options is a drop down to right click attached to left foot or, you know, chest, etc., it could be much easier.
I thought that was one of the options. Yeah, right click, put on, attach. Maybe I'm confused. How is what you're suggesting different than what's there now with right click, put on, attach?
On the ground?
Yeah.
Where is that?
So you put an object on the ground, you right click, and then there's put on, and then there's attach, and it lists all the different places you could attach it to.
Yeah, but then you'd be putting it on. I'm talking about just setting the permission for where the attachment point is. So you've got 20 of the same item on the ground in
Uh-huh.
the various body sizes, etc. And you want to set it for its attachment point. Then you could just do that as part of
Oh,
the
so
setting
you want something like
in
like
the
in the
editing
build.
menu.
So like in the build floater under like object or something, or like in
Right.
general where it's got name and description, like have a field for attachment point.
Right, but a good place to actually put it would be where you're setting permissions. So when you're setting your permissions to make it no transfer, you could actually do attachment point right there, and then everything would stop being attached to the right hand.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's a
I
floater.
generally like that idea. Yeah, please submit it at feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, I see. Like where we were set permissions was right above like pathfinding attributes. Like, okay, yeah, we got pathfinder exposed right there, but not attachment point. You're right. That's kind of silly.
Right,
That
because I did hear about it being a drop down when you're actually uploading. I even created an actual template visual for it. Took me hours, but it sort of didn't happen because I really think that again, if you're uploading and you had the opportunity to set where you want it attached, could help in that. But this is my last ditch effort to have something do it so that everything's not attached to right hand, because some of us that actually use right hand as an attachment point, everything I had to put RLV locks on cups to stop them getting detached by bras. So
oh, that's fun. Yeah, right click add is supposed to help with that a lot, but it's also kind of
they're not meaningless though at all. You get one less cookie this week, Veer.
Uh-oh, what do they mean?
Yeah, because I understand what you're saying, that you can attach something to the left foot even if it appears on your head, but the attachment points are necessary because everybody's leaving them at the default. Like they're attached to the right hand for everything you put on. So you got to put on, if you use the wear function instead of add, it takes off what you have on.
Oh, yeah, sure. I understand that the wear versus add thing is
But
a total pain, but what I mean is just that
there's a
it
hierarchy
doesn't have
as
any
well.
functional. It doesn't have any
It does.
functional impact,
Yeah.
right? The content looks the same regardless of
No.
which attachment point it's on. No.
No. There's
Okay.
a hierarchy. So for the alpha blending issues and stuff like that, where you actually place items in order, actually helps with that.
Oh, you're right. Right. I'd forgotten about the ordering thing. All right. I don't get any cookies this week. You're right.
You still probably get waffles. You're a Linden. So yeah, so if we can just make it that people just stop leaving it at the default, because it can just be box selected on the ground, because then that even means people like me that work for other brands who have mod rights can just do it while all the stuff's res down on the ground. You know, it's just a thing, like me running around turning everybody's things phantom because it helps. So yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, reordering attachments is interesting. Outfits have a special kind of a hack to let you specify the order of wearables, which is good for bakes, but it doesn't do anything for you with attachments.
I like to wear. I'm old school. I can't. This ad business just does my head in. Also, we had a lot of bugs in the past that um, made it difficult if you just had everything attached to the same attachment point. There were issues in the past. It's just nice to have things allocated to the right space. Also, while we're in the topic of outfits, can we get the option to lock items in place as well? Like I shouldn't have to go in and restack tattoo layers, for instance, because um, the face should be under the eyebrows, should be under the eyeshadow. But if you decide to change skins, it's above, and then you have to go in and restack everything. It should be possible to lock that order.
I'm not sure if I understand the question there. I mean, tattoos should be above skins anyway, right?
Bomb and appliers, they started to separate face from body. It's a weird, I know.
I don't know. When I'm talking about skin, I mean like the skin wearable.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
People may be
Yes.
using other things and calling them skins.
No, you're right. It's just that the
Yeah.
body now is on the skin layer and the face of your skin is on a tattoo. They've broken it up. People
Yeah.
say
Yeah, I don't know if people put it in the layers, I guess it's going to behave according to where they put it, but I can see how it's kind of confusing. Yeah, I mean, for anybody who hasn't dealt with this stuff before, the way the ordering works is that there's a fixed ordering between different types of wearables. So like the old school, what we used to call skins are at the bottom, and then if I recall correctly, and then the tattoos are next, and then clothing like shirts are above that, and so there's no
underpants are above that.
yeah, so there's no ability to modify the ordering of by
Right.
type, but then
I don't
within a
want to.
type,
Yep.
you can have you can specify the ordering when you're editing the outfit, and so you can specify which tattoo goes on
Right.
top of which other tattoo, etc.
Right. So I just want to lock something so that it doesn't move. Do you know what I mean? So that no matter where it actually, when you put it on, it can stay underneath.
I'm not sure what
Or
locking would mean. You'd basically say, always keep this at the bottom, always keep this at the
right
top,
of the
something like
stack
that.
heap. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still in its order. So tattoo is still above skin, but your face has to be on the bottom of the stack because then you're adding eyebrows,
Yeah.
you're adding nails, etc. like that.
That's kind of interesting. Do you want to file a feature request for that? Because I can kind of think of a way you might do that. The way that the ordering actually gets specified is it's hacked into the description field of the link, not the item, but the link in the outfit, and which isn't otherwise visible. And so there might be some, weird syntax we could use for that to specify, keep at the top, keep at the bottom that wouldn't conflict with the other conventions we're already using. We could at least
That
take
would
a
be
look at
great
it.
if there was something like
Yeah.
if skin makers just had to put a tilde at the beginning of their description and then that just automatically threw them at the bottom would be amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Get us a request and we'll take a look. If it breaks existing content, of course we're out of luck. But there might be a way we could get that in.
I think we missed one of the YouTube questions from Salem FU. They say, hey guys, someone who is just considering SL, I am a modeler, rigger, new to animation, but working my way through getting better at it. I was wondering what would be some advice of where to start. That was a good group to ask that question. I think I'll throw that out to the content creators. Anyone?
Rigging in the Second Life's pretty Second Life centric, so you're going to have to get something like Avastar for Blender.
Yep. So Avastar, that's 2 for Avastar. Ty says Avastar Discord channel. I can attest to that one. But yeah, to get into rigging for Second Life, you really do have to shell out for the Avastar plugin. That it's not 100% necessary, but it makes life a lot easier. Yeah, Bento Buddy is also pretty cool. Bento Buddy will let you how to put it, like if I was gonna make a character that's not a humanoid character, I'd definitely use Bento Buddy.
Speaking of things that would help people, is there any chance that secondlife.com will ever feature the downloads for the SLUV instead of us having to go to a third party site or send people to Robin Sojourner's website that thankfully is still up? Because it's kind of ridiculous that that's a thing.
You mean, wait, what? We don't just
You
host
don't
it on the
host
wiki?
the SLUV. Well, yeah, but to get to the stage of being a person that knows to go to the wiki to find such things, if it is actually there, I've never been to the wiki for it. People look to your website first. So putting those tools on the actual website, this is the SLUV, this is the SLUV, and what it does would probably be really helpful. And I feel like back in olden days when I was born, it was on the SL website.
That's Yeah, I'm Googling it now. I just always get it from the wiki.
I
I
always send people to Robin Sojourner's one because she did the highly detailed one. I'm not sure if that's the one on the wiki. I wouldn't even, sorry, I just didn't even know it was on the wiki or it hadn't been or something. It's just
it
me.
might not be now.
Yeah, I don't know. We rarely take any of that stuff down, but it can kind of get lost in the shuffle.
It's just that the secondlife.com is your place. You know, it's where
Yeah. Yeah, and wiki.secondlife.com is still alive very much for LSL. And it is still a go-to for some of the mesh resources. And now that I'm looking at it, yeah, the UV unwrap is not there.
There you go. Sorry. But I just think that it would be amazing to have it as a feature page on secondlife.com so that people understand, because people still do not understand that the SLUV is what makes up
Yeah.
you know, a major
There's
part of our
there's definitely a push right now to make life easier for content creators and make Second Life more approachable to content creators that haven't used Second Life before. So I'm making a note of that as something to track.
like even somebody looking at the SLUV for the body, for instance, as much as it seems really daunting, excuse me, you can throw a love heart on it or write a word on it, and you've got a tattoo. And if somebody starts with a gateway item like that, then they could go on to build a region of incredible. Do you know what I mean? It's just like a little starting point to get excited about content creation.
No, I think that's a good point. We should look at that. Obviously, there's a lot of areas where the docs could stand a bit more attention, but that one's an especially good point.
See, Robin asks if there's anything we can expect in the coming months here around Gen AI and content creation in Second Life. So last weekend, we spent some time in a sandbox just playing around with Meshy. I don't know if you guys have seen Meshy.ai. That's pretty compelling. And it's definitely cost prohibitive to host such a thing, which is why they've got the token model going on there. But yeah, we're kind of brainstorming ways that we'd want to interact with such a thing from Second Life. And like with GLTF, it's pretty easy to just download it, upload it manually. So that's the low bar that works now with the GLTF preview. The high bar would be something like a viewer integration where you can do everything you can do on the Meshy AI website, but through some kind of web API wrapper, because they do offer a web API wrapper, so that you can integrate that into your application. But it's just in the like, hey, this is cool. Do we want to maybe integrate it somehow? Stage. But we're definitely looking at all sorts of AI stuff, because you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that AI is important and coming, whether you like it or not. So we got to figure out how to work with it.
I do have a small update for PBR.
I think it's a cynical load of crap, to be honest. Like it's all
not
about
talking.
funneling money to a few billionaires in San Francisco, and that's great. What it means for humanity is on a larger scale and for content creation. I mean, it's kind of sad, really. It'll mean that well, content creation will largely be over, won't it? For that line of income for a lot of people is going to go.
Yeah, let's parking lot that for the end. Cosmic was giving an update, but we'll circle back to that in a minute. Cosmic, can please go ahead.
Yeah, this is in response to Maxwell Graph. As far as PBR terrain goes, texture transforms have been an ask. That is currently implemented client side. However, it's behind a feature flag. The feature is available in a preliminary state on the server side. However, the feature flag is turned off. But if you feel like playing it around with it on the beta grid, you can bump that feature flag on your viewer and check it out. Your mileage may vary, as this feature is not supported across the grid yet, but to give an idea what this feature is, it's a subset of the KHR texture transform extension for PBR terrain. So this allows for applying scale, offset, or rotation to any one of the 4 terrain materials.
Yeah, that one's super fun. I was reading background questions, so forgive me if you mentioned it, but I heard somebody talking about the possibility of an LSL API for that. Is that a thing?
It is not currently a thing, but it's definitely something that is in demand. I can't provide an ETA, but it's definitely something that we're aware of has been requested.
I'm curious about what you mean by a near and far texture set. If you have any examples of terrain engines that do such a thing, that would be appreciated. But from what I understand, to avoid repeats, people mostly use texture bombing and paint maps. Yeah, I mean, I get the concept that you'd have a different texture for far view, but I'm not aware of any terrain rendering engines that actually do that. I'm not saying they don't exist, I just don't know of them. Nanite for terrain sounds interesting. Is that going to be like a voxel terrain with a mesh output? Okay. So actual consumption of actual reverse engineering of nanite itself. That one's tricky. Definitely taking a wait and see on nanite, because it is it's a beast still.
Cyanide had a question about possible additional LSL calls. Yeah, this probably isn't the best meeting for that. We don't have we don't necessarily have server folks here all the time. Although we do have
Ryder's lurking
one
back
here
there.
now. Hey, Ryder, do you want to comment on this?
All right, I was working on a bug. This is. I got distracted.
The question was, we have L detected touch pause. Could we possibly have an L get ST pause or LL get UV pause to get the same information without needing a touch and just specifying a vector? So I'm not sure what
Huh.
ST would be. UV, maybe?
Just a vector intersect. Just a vector through the surface.
I think they want a position
Yeah.
in world from a texture coordinate.
All right. Well, a texture coordinate from a texture coordinate from a position in world is how I read that. Um, that could be rough.
Yeah, you'd have to ask the viewer.
Yeah,
The
because
simulator doesn't actually have the render mesh in memory.
yeah, yeah. I mean, with the detected versions of the function, it's the viewer that's telling me telling me what all that is.
Yeah, that's a push from the viewer when you click, so you'd have like a
Yeah.
query service on the client, which is doable. I wouldn't.
It's doable. It would be slow, but yeah, and it could well. I then you're also dealing with a script, and there's not necessarily a user associated with the script.
Yeah, there's always the question of
Um,
which client do you ask?
yeah,
Or
who do I ask?
there's also UV issues, or sorry, LOD issues.
Yeah.
Well, this is probably something that would be more practical. I don't know. I was gonna say it'd be more practical post GLTF, but we're going to be keeping as much as we can out of memory with that side. So
It would
yeah,
be problematic. It would be problematic even in GLTF.
yeah, because we try to not have the render mesh in memory there either. That sounds like a job for client side scripting. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it would.
Feature request.
I did some stuff with basically maps and texture texture positioning and texture scrolling to get a zoom in on a map. But
You know what you could do is get barycentric coordinates, not texture coordinates, but just from the positions of a triangle in the physics mesh. If you had an index to the triangle in the physics mesh and you asked for the barycentric S&T,
that's great till you reduce your physics mesh to a simple bounding box.
well, yeah, but it's better than nothing. Yeah, so the ST to local pause, Joey says, I'm curious against what data. But this is getting awfully technical. Making groups less limited for the amount you can join. Isn't that something you have to pay for?
Yeah, that's really more of a product question than a content creators question. The best way to get it to us would be to just file a canny issue onto the feedback portal.
Yep.
And sorry, Dave.
Yeah, the Canny portal is effective at getting many Lindens to look at your bug or your feature request. That's a big part of our week is going over all of those. So it's not just like, don't talk to me, file in the complaint box. No, like that is not a box to nowhere that those do get looked at.
But we do get a lot more requests than we can follow up on, so just be aware there's going to be a fair percentage of them that we just say, well, sorry, we can't really tackle this.
It can take a while before we can look at it, but
Yeah,
that is the best
the
way
list-
to get it in front of people.
Yeah, we probably get through 20 a week during that hour, but the list grows by about 40. So
I was looking at the at Canny the other day, and I noticed that there have been some responses to things that you already have, but are being commented on. We're looking into it. It's been requested. We're tracking it, but it already exists. And
Yeah.
I just
This
so I
is a fun
answered.
one. We recently had a meeting where QA gave a presentation, like the people who do we call it the regression test on Second Life, where they go through and they test every single thing that Second Life can do to make sure it still works. That test takes 400 hours. Yeah, we often forget what is even in this thing. So
I think that does make actual sense. But for example, this was somebody pleading that that something be added to the inventory management system because they couldn't find an item if they wrote Dave P. shorts, right? If you're the brand and then you wanted shorts, and it got tracked, and it was, we're going to look into that, and da da da. It's been in the system. I actually had to log in the SL viewer just to make sure. It's been actually in there for years, that if you write Dave P plus shorts plus red, you will get all shorts that you've ever sold and in the red color, or take away the red and just have the shorts, or have the shorts plus reborn because that's the size. That's been in the system for
how
all
about
viewers
that?
for many years. Right, exactly that. What Aries just wrote. So I put it in there. I responded, but
That's awesome.
it seems really like a basic knowledge because it's inventory. So I was just, I understand what you're saying, and yes, absolutely. I just got called on that with the wiki comment with the SLUV, but it's just sort of, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what I'm actually saying. I'm just kind of concerned that people are being led to believe something will happen in the future that they could be using tomorrow.
yeah,
that-
the tracked status is really hard in Canny though, because sometimes we will mark things as tracked specifically because there's valuable feedback on that, on that Canny request. But we don't want to do it that way, that the directly what is being asked for in that request. We want to make that user story easier to accomplish, but we may want to do it in a different way, and we will still mark the Canny issue as tracked, and that's really confusing, and I don't know what we could do better for that.
Okay,
Yep.
I guess it's just the commentary that was saying, oh, lots of people have requested it. We're looking into it, but we don't know when it's going to be. Seems like a really bad response because, that's somebody that could be, like I said, just informed that I don't know. I can't expect everybody to know everything. Apparently, I'm a power user, but but somebody actually said that. But I just want to it just made me sad that somebody could be just about not being able to do something that is actually there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do try to catch if it's something that's already there, but maybe we're missing some of those cases. That's unfortunate.
I think also what I'm hearing, Sassy, is that a little more tailored responses to let people know that the same old, yeah, we like this idea, isn't really giving the whole message. Because as Brad said very well, sometimes we track it because we like the idea and don't want to lose track of it, but we're totally not going to do it the way that the suggestion was made.
Yep.
Right.
And they do slip through the cracks, and it's fine to give us a nudge when that happens, because like Ryder said, we get through as many as we can. Some of them we don't get to for a while, and sometimes it's just like that one could be sandwiched between two of them that are really interesting.
It's
we get a little
important
distracted.
to say also that it is really good that we are getting this instantaneous feedback, though. I commend everybody on Canny, how it's been working. People are feeling seen more than they ever were on the Jira. So in that note, I guess the tracking and saying that the answer is something, at least the person feels that something was acknowledged. So it might just be a change in how it's worded, but I don't want people to just not comment. So I think in that sense, it's been a really good effort on whoever's answering's part.
Yeah, we're almost at time, and I did want to circle back to Cube's discussion about generative AI, because I think that's a pertinent topic and worth at least a few moments. And yes, it is disruptive is the kindest word I can use to describe the situation around generative AI.
It's not only that, it's cynical as well. Because, I mean, like, just create all the creativity into some subscription that you pay to some billionaire in San Francisco. It's just ridiculous, in my opinion. But, I mean, it does raise loads of questions as to is anything that humans do special in any way, shape, or form. And, like, that's another sort of like existential crisis that comes with it, I think.
Yeah, and so I can tell you that I use like Copilot, and I use different generative AI tools to write code, and it's been helpful. And from my perspective, it doesn't devalue my work or take anything from me. It just helps me get more done in less time. My hope is that that's the story that artists will be telling with the technology. My hope is that it doesn't turn into this adversarial relationship where people feel like they're getting ripped off.
Well, I mean, you're training the AI to do your job at the same time, aren't you, Dave?
Yeah, and
Not true for Copilot, I don't think.
I mean, it's definitely trained on the code that we put on GitHub.
And all of my Substance Designer files are training Substance Designer to make my parts. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it could turn into one of those things that is a net negative, but historically when technology like this gets introduced, that it's usually a net positive.
Has there ever been a technology like this introduced, Dave? I mean, it's like there's a difference between like introducing like digital desktop publishing, which is, like you can paint and still use your hand and have some sort of like interface with it, some kind of
the most recent thing that was this disruptive to a large swath of the manufacturing industry, which is really what we're talking about. We're talking about manufacturing code and manufacturing art. Was CNC machines.
The robots are coming for our jobs.
Yeah, like it took a process that was manual, that employed a lot of people, and it made it automatic. And the end result was the people who learned that technology produced a lot more for a lot less, and everyone became wealthier in terms of real goods. Like, and I know this sounds like a capitalist like dream, but it's very hard to argue that the people who like leaned into the tool that helped them make more for less did better than the people who didn't.
Have you guys had any discussions about setting up some kind of guidelines for creative use of AI in here, or establishing any kind of rules?
I think the entire industry is trying to decide what is ethical, and we're just gonna have to keep a close eye out on what norms emerge. Some folks are gonna try to take it to one extreme or the other, and as a group, as a society, we just need to figure out together where we're all the most comfortable. I do think that right now it leans more towards favoring the people who control the AI models, and it leans less in the favor of the artists. I'd like to see that corrected. I know that some companies are trying hard to make sure that the people who use their tools get value out of it. And that it's not just like the artist is not the product, but the artist is the customer genuinely with some of these tools. But yeah, it's going to be a tricky time.
Well, it's about sending more money upstairs, isn't it, rather than like it being equally shared amongst people. It's you know, like more creative jobs are going to go to generative AI, but at the same time, it's kind of like
the money.
It's kind of like it looks a bit like
the money's going to NVIDIA and AWS.
Yeah, that's true. Most of the AI companies are losing money hand over fist right now in the hopes that they can kind of get a big piece of the future.
Yeah, if you want to make money right now, you don't make an AI startup. Those are failing at an alarming rate. It's yes, nobody really knows where this is going to go, but it's pretty sure thing that generative AI is going to be a tool that your competitors are going to be using if you're not. If that makes...
I mean, there's so many use case scenarios too. Like, I'm not a very good scripter generally, but if I create an item and I want to put a script in it, I can use ChatGPT to come up with a really good LSL script that's considerably complicated, when you look at all the variables that I can alter and change. And, is that ethical for me to put that into my product and sell it? It becomes a question of that every time I try and get involved with it.
Yeah, and with my experience with Copilot, my experience with Meshi, is that you can get it to produce a product, but the product it produces is fairly useless unless you have the expertise to finish it. That it gives you something that is almost done.
Actually, looks like it's been trained on a load of like. It all looks the same. Like, where's the data? Where's the training data come from for Meshi?
Yeah, and with Meshi, like even when it gets a good hit, like it's a roughed out model. It still needs work to be production ready. It's a fun little toy for like, oh yeah, I want to like just fart out a relatively low quality mesh that looks like a thing that I've never seen before. But
It becomes like an overload of novelty, doesn't it? Like at first it was like, wow, holy shit, look at that hot avatar picture. And then it's just like a novelty overload, and it's like every picture looks the same. Like looks like this an actress, this actress from England. Like most of the women look exactly the same.
And there's one of those things where like video AI. If you look at video AI a few years ago versus video AI now,
Yeah.
like it's going to get better. But even video AI now, as good as it is, still has a bit of a smell to it. If you know what I mean.
And the thing that
actually
surprised me the most
sorry.
with Meshi so far is that they've got the ability to generate PBR materials that are GLTF compliant and ready to import in here without having to touch it any further. And they can even do retopology now with the models, which is pretty intense. I mean, if you don't have to go in and retopologize manually, you can just say, oh, I want. Now, is it generating the best quality mesh? Probably not, but that's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and cheap and good enough generally wins compared to expensive and high quality.
As Hasuma also said, go. I mean, there are a lot of content creators who have physical solutions. So if a button press can.
You're cutting out a lot. Can you speak up?
Sorry, I was saying that if a person can press a button to retopologize something that they've created because they may have limitations due to disabilities or things like that, or just strain, pain, etc. I'm all for that. I think that means we won't lose those content because we've lost a few that have left work.
Yeah, there's a lot of cut out there. Hopefully soon this region will be WebRTC enabled. But I think I caught the gist of it. That for folks who are either incapable for physical reasons or experience reasons or time reasons of not doing these tasks like retopologizing content that they've made themselves, tools like that can be a real benefit. It's definitely a concern about like ripoffs. It's happened with the code generators, where you'll actually get people's names put into comments saying, developer name X to do, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like the AI is assigning a to-do task for somebody in somebody else's code base. So yeah, and it's definitely been seen in some of the image generators. I haven't seen it in mesh generator yet, but it's been seen in image generators where certain pieces of art just to get copied wholesale.
Dave, I should mention that we are past time, and
yes.
I know some folks need to take off. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming by this week. A lot of good discussions, and we'll be catching up with you later.
Yep. I will speak to Cindy's thing about accounts getting hacked. Turn on MFA. Multi-factor authentication works. It's a very good thing. Turn it on.